In today's episode of Today in World War II, January 14th, British cryptologists were able to decipher the German Enigma code for the first time with some help from their friends. German surface raider captures an entire Norwegian whaling fleet without firing a shot. The Japanese advance into Burma. A German submarine sinks a tanker off of Long Island because we didn't really care about ships dying off our coast at this point of the war. Soviet troops capture a town called Velikiy Luki in Russia, about 200 miles west of Moscow. And finally, the British forces clear the very famous and very strategically important Roer Triangle towards the end of the war. Let's get started. Okay, so on today's date in 1940, January 14th, 1940, British cryptologists got some very important help from Polish experts in deciphering the Enigma code at Bletchley Park. A lot of people have no idea how vital Polish help was in defeating the Germans in general from a conventional point of view with troops and pilots and so on and so forth. But no less important was the Polish Secret Service, and they were at the forefront of this. Before the war had started, the Poles were able to capture a German Enigma machine, and their cryptologists were working on this to decode it and so before the invasion happened. In fact, one of the first missions that the SOE had, the British Secret Service, Special Operations Executive had, was the war was to send agents in to Poland after the German invasion to meet with Polish agents to get the Enigma box, the machine, and to get as many cryptologists as they could out of Poland to get and to make sure that the Gestapo and the German intelligence did not know that the Poles had done these things because that would have been disastrous. They wanted to keep the Germans in the dark as long as they could. And so I really recommend that you do some research on that if you're into this stuff and you really want to find out the hidden things that aren't talked about too much. This aspect of the war was very, very important. And I just wish that more people knew about how vital the help that the Poles were to the Allied war effort. And I hope that you understand how vital you are to my warfare to make sure that I can grow my channel. And one of the best ways you can do that is to click the subscribe button and click the bell, which will notify you whenever I drop a new video. I'm giving you good content here, and I think that, it's a good win-win for both of us. Thanks. On January 14th, 1941, oh, the German armed merchant cruiser surface raider Penguin captured almost an entire Norwegian whaling fleet without firing a shot. And by doing so, they captured 20,000 tons of whale oil and about 10,000 tons of fuel oil with this success. And, what can I say? It's one of those deals where at this time of the war, the British Navy just did not have enough coverage to hunt down and destroy these surface raiders. It took them about 2 years to do so. And these types of successes were actually pretty common during this happy time for the surface raiders. And the Penguin was a very successful surface raider before ultimately it ended up getting sunk by the Royal Navy. But you will not get sunk literally or figuratively if you like my video and leave a comment, I should say. So all you need to do is just go down below the screen. There's a thumbs up and thumbs down. Click on the thumbs up and then leave a comment. You could actually just leave gibberish and it wouldn't matter because the algorithm will see engagement and it will reward engagement by showing my content to other people in their feeds. So I would appreciate that. Okay, on January 14th, 1942, the Japanese forces advanced into Burma. Again, this was continuation of their onslaught, their invasion of Southeast Asia. By this time, of course, they already controlled Taiwan. They were in the process of conquering the Philippines, Dutch Middle, Indonesia, the Dutch East Indies, Malaysia. Singapore would fall soon enough. Spoiler alert. And now it was Burma's turn. And all they, the British had forces there, but of course they were not adequate. The American volunteer group, the Flying Tigers, were there, and they did a good job in blunting some of the Japanese aerial attacks. But there weren't enough fighter pilots, enough fighter planes to be able to stop the Japanese. So this was the initial campaign to conquer Burma, and it ended up the Japanese, of course, did end up conquering the entire country, which meant they cut off the Burma Road. There was no more Allied supplies could reach China overland, which led to the U.S. mounting an airlift from India over the Himalaya mountains into China that she called, flying the hump. But that's a story for a different time. On January 14, 1942, well, yesterday we talked about this arrogant, what can I say, almost criminal U.S. admiral who refused to convoy merchant ships and who refused to demand that the Allied cities in the East Coast, excuse me, the American cities in the East Coast uh, follow blackout procedures. And on this date, as a consequence, U-boat 123 sank a Panamanian tanker within, about 60 miles off of Long Island, New York. And this happened over and over and over again for about 4 months during what the U-boat sailors called the second happy time, because it was like taking candy from a baby, except in the German case, instead of just taking the candy, they would kill the baby, right? The merchant ships. So self-inflicted wounds, and just goes to show you that uh, even the good guys can be extremely arrogant and make stupid mistakes. And on January 14th, 1943, the Soviets were in the middle of their offensive to you know drive the Germans away from Moscow and away from this was still the beginning of 43. So in 42 the Germans had made a thrust in the southern flank going through Ukraine, southern Russia, into the Caucasus. Hitler's desire was to grab the oil fields and so on and so forth. Well, we know how that ended. It was hadn't completely ended for the Germans yet in Stalingrad. It was about to. And so, in the meantime, while the Germans were in a morass and a swamp, uh, figuratively speaking, because it was 30 below. Not many swamps have 30 below, but the in the central front near Moscow, the Russians were pushing the Germans back and back away from their capital, and they captured an important provincial city called Velikiy Luki, and that was just part and parcel of a steady campaign to get them out of get them away from Moscow. And then let's go to fast forward to 1945, January 14th, 1945. The British forces cleared the Roer Triangle. That was, you know, we will cover this later in this series, but there were a series of dams where the Germans had built hydroelectrical uh, complexes to power German cities and, of course, German industry. And the Brits were ever uh, ingenious in their ways to try to disrupt the German war effort, and they had tried to bomb these dams. They had a squadron of Lancaster bombers called the Dam Busters, and they didn't weren't able to completely not sink, I'm sorry, destroy all of the dams, but they did get a few. Well, now we're in 45. The war only has a few months left. Now, British forces are inside Germany proper, and they cleared the Roer Triangle, which was where all these dams were located. And of course, it was just a matter of just a few weeks before everything went crashing down, 100% inside Germany. But the British Army was able to finish what the RAF valiantly tried to do, but wasn't able to do so. So that is what the highlights were for today in January 14th, 1945. Thank you very much for watching. I can't wait to show you another video tomorrow.